Hi everyone, my name is Kalisa Chavarria and this is for CEP 240 Discussion 3, the Diversity of American Adolescents. So the first topic is describe limitations faced by adolescents of low socioeconomic status. Personally, I started off in a low socioeconomic family. Fortunately, we have built up our way to be a higher standing in the economic class, but limitations faced by adolescents of a low status are poverty, inability to be offered more opportunities, low income schools, low budgeted programs, or no programs at all. The second topic asks me to explain the cycle of poverty. So the cycle of poverty starts out when a child, it's theorized that whenever a child starts off in a poverty-stricken family, that they will also follow suit, being that if they grow up in a family that survives off food stamps or government aid, they will most likely follow their family's patterns. So children who grow up like that may follow the same patterns, as I said, and they will probably pass it down to other generations, to future generations, and they will most likely not try to attempt to get out of the poverty-stricken class just because they haven't seen it been done before and they feel like it may be too hard to escape. The third topic is summarize the inequalities African American adolescents encounter. So in the past, racial discrimination was a very large issue. It was such a large issue that there's even segregation in schools, segregation on school buses or just regular city buses, segregation of water fountains, bathrooms, even restaurants, I would say, although I'm not too sure about hospitals, but I think some hospitals would not serve African Americans. So racial discrimination against African Americans has always been a very large issue. They always seem to be the only racial class, well, not the only racial class, but out of most of the racial classes or ethnic groups or backgrounds, they seem to be the ones that experience a higher level of discrimination and hate. So in today's day, things that they may experience are discrimination as well. I wouldn't necessarily say segregation since it has been outlawed, although I feel that African American neighborhoods are targeted towards more gang violence, poverty, and less opportunities and no programs for after school or for children that will keep them focused on improving their education. And so I feel like an African American student could be discriminated against in school by teachers or principals or whoever just because they feel that they come from a certain background and that they have the inability to achieve a high educational standing, and that they were offered less opportunities or they couldn't afford educational opportunities that a person from, say, a Caucasian upper economic class may have been able to afford. The next topic, number 4, is identify the culture strengths that help overcome problems faced by American Latina students. So again, personally for me, I grew up in the Hispanic / Caucasian household, I would say, and my parents grew up in a very low-income, poverty-stricken household. They struggled very hard. They grew up around gang violence, drug violence, all kinds of negative things that somebody in a low socioeconomic class would experience. Their family lived off food stamps, lived off the government, didn't have a job, even though they could have had a job. So my parents fortunately stepped away from that, and they raised my sibling and I in a way that crossed the threshold of the cycle of poverty. So what I experienced is that my mom was very strict. She always had us focus on school. She never really allowed us to do anything. We were very stuck to the home and focused on school, and that was our only focus. And she said that our job was school, nothing else. And so I feel that in Hispanic households, in traditional Hispanic households, school isn't really a main focus. Women of the household are encouraged to get married at a very young age. Males are probably thought to be the dominant of the household, and that they may have freedom to do whatever they please. And such as those, I feel that whenever someone crosses the poverty, the threshold of the cycle of poverty, they step into how I was raised, with a strict parent, with two strict parents, and a hard work ethic to be able to achieve your goals and try to do better for yourself. Number 5 is differentiate the experience of Native American adolescents and Caucasian American adolescents. So I think that just due to history, with everything that Native Americans experienced in the past 200 years, being taken off their land and basically being slaughtered by foreigners that came to America, and Caucasians, I feel like Caucasians are held up on a pedestal rather than Native Americans, who are now making their way up to being considered equal. But for a long time, there was a period of time that was just, every race was just inferior to whites. And so I feel that in recent years, all races are being seen as equal, but there still are those people who are very hateful, very racial, even sexist in a sense. So I feel like Native Americans have probably experienced maybe harder things than Caucasians have if they grew up in a low socioeconomic status, because there aren't very many benefits for Native Americans. There may be government funded programs, maybe their schools may be funded, or they're guaranteed a specific area of land for their reservation, but I really don't feel that Native Americans experienced as much benefits as Caucasian students may have. Number 6 is list challenges faced by immigrant and refugee youth. So challenges faced by immigrants and refugees are that they come to this country in hopes for a better life. Some come for other things, but the majority are to better their lives, better their education, make sure that their families grow up in a safe environment. And as of now, there aren't a lot of people who are very comfortable with refugees or immigrants coming to our country, but the way I see it is that I take pride in knowing that my country is seen as safe to other countries and secure, that those people of those countries want to come over here because of how well protected the United States is. And so I feel like immigrants and refugees, they experience a lot of hate, a lot of discrimination, a lot of racial slurs probably, and not everyone, but a large majority of people say that they want every immigrant in the U.S. deported. However, I see it as not all immigrants are bad, not all immigrants are hateful, not all refugees are hateful. Refugees can come from Iraq, Afghanistan, Eastern, Western Europe. I feel that people really feel like refugees are just Arabian and that they only come here to be terrorists, and I really don't feel that that is necessarily the case. In several interviews that I've watched with people who are interviewed about terrorism going on, they say that they don't do it just because they want to do it. They say that it's for revenge against the U.S. Say the U.S. bombed their hometown or something. And I'd have to read further into it to really comprehend a larger grasp on the concept. But I think that Americans are very egocentric and they only have their way of seeing themselves as being the good guy, and they never really put themselves in the bad guy position. Number 7 is describe how the imaginary audience and personal fable reflect adolescents' cognitive development. So the imaginary audience and personal fable are a concept of egocentrism. Adolescents always believe that there's like someone watching them, and I remember experiencing this in my adolescence. Sometimes I still do feel like there is somebody watching, just because I guess it is just through the stage of development, making sure, I guess it's just like a mental thing that you feel that there's somebody watching to make sure you're always doing the right thing. Sorry, I'm reading. The personal fable I feel adolescents have, should all have, telling them that they are unique in their own way, that they do have characteristics that nobody else has, and that they will always hold those characteristics to themselves. So I feel that the imaginary audience and the personal fable are very beneficial to adolescents, just because it keeps you on the path of your development. That is all for today. Thank you for watching. Bye.